Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Before I begin today, a huge thank you to the Iron Moustache for the virtual gift voucher. Thank you very much, my friend. I really appreciate all the support. But on to today. And today, Iron Warriors Week continues with the breaking of the Iron Warriors. Now, general spoiler warning to begin, we are going to be talking a little general Horus Heresy lore and events from the Horus Heresy Primarch novel, Perturabo, The Hammer of Olympia, by Guy Haley. As always, I really recommend you read the novel for yourself first, as that's the best way to enjoy the lore for yourself. Not only that, but we help to support the great Games Workshop and Black Library, because without them, we don't have all this exciting lore to talk about. I'll put a link in the description as always. But with that said, let's just jump straight in. Now, our last upload saw Perturabo being found by his father, the Emperor of Mankind, and finally being given the sense of belonging he'd always yearned for. The Emperor informing Perturabo his road will be hard, but few are worthy of it. I have many tasks for you, the indefatigable, the indomitable, the unrelenting. You shall be my Lord of Iron. And Perturabo proceeded to be just that. As cold and hard as iron. There would be no stronghold in the galaxy capable of withstanding the Iron Warriors Legion. After spending time upon Terra with the Emperor, as all the Primarchs do when found, Perturabo took command of his Legion, and in analysing their complete history, found the Legion wanting, that they had not achieved the potential expected, and now demanded. And so he ordered decimation. 1 in 10 Marines of the Legion were chosen by random lottery to face death at the hands of their brothers. Now, obviously, I'm not going to sit here and say, great idea, Perturabo, great first impression to make, but it is worth looking at it in context as to why this isn't declared an outright heresy. Perturabo was raised on Olympia, which is based rather heavily on the Greco-Roman culture, where decimation was practiced by the Roman army in situations such as cowardice, and essentially it's used as a way to punish serious offences whilst managing a large group of individuals. This was Perturabo's way of renewing his legion, removing the weak and uniting those that remained. Think back to that moment with the shepherds and the monster at the start of the week, and his words to himself of do they deserve help? Then his upbringing in this culture. It's a lot easier to see Perturabo's actions in context, rather than the idiocy or bad writing you might think of at first. And that's not to say no one objected. Guilliman was irate at Perturabo's behaviour, for loyal Astartes to be treated in this manner, but the Emperor had faith in his Lord of Iron. And I think it would be safe to say that Perturabo's leadership of his legion was loyalty through fear, as opposed to loyalty through love. But regardless, the Iron Warriors flourished under their returned Primarch, and achieved a stunning victory in the crusade against Justice Rock and the Black Judges, and in time forged the Iron Warriors into his image. Perhaps more so than even he realised, because with his strengths also came his flaws, such as his paranoia, mistrust and resentment. These all became embedded within the Legion, and none more so than the lack of valuing life, that all that mattered was victory. Over time, this began to affect the Legion, combined with their resentment at having so many of their brothers out across the stars. On mere garrison duty, a bitterness began to take hold, and it came to a head in a campaign against the Hrud, a species of Xenos with advanced time-warping abilities, which made them incredibly hard to combat. Despite ultimately achieving a measure of victory by forcing the Xenos to flee the system, the Iron Warriors were nigh on devastated, suffering vast losses due to Perturabo's ignorance of attrition of war. As the Legion hastily attempted to repair the damage and awaited fresh recruits from Olympia, word came of Olympia's rebellion. And thus the true breaking of Perturabo and the Iron Warriors began. Racing back to the homeworld, Perturabo ordered all the warring city-state leaders to parley with him, and as the gathered nobles squabble, Perturabo's rage begins to break. "This is not a negotiation," he shouted. They fell silent. "This is not your chance to petition me or instruct me in your meaningless squabbles." He sat forwards in his throne, bringing his face into the brightness of the sun. The shadows cast on his features made it a crag as hard as any mountains. His voice was slow and forceful, building to a shout again. "All my life, your people used me, told me what to do, until my true father came." The nobles, oblivious to the fate they caused themselves, voiced their grievances to the Primarch. Of the thousands of sons given away to the Legion, that they have lost their children, they lose more people now to the Iron Warriors than they ever had to the Black Judges. And here, truly, we see the lifetime of resentment betrayed in Perturabo's words. Perturabo's false smile froze and fell away. "Do you not see? Did you think Olympia is special somehow because I was found here? This world is like any other that has refused the light of the Emperor's protection. It is non-compliant, and shall suffer the wrath of our Legion as a non-compliant world." He stood over the men and women. "You have not been on the front of the Great Crusade. You have not witnessed the worlds I have burned, the cultures I have extirpated, the xenobreeds I have consigned to extinction. If you had seen but one of the horrors waiting out there, you would offer up your children without complaint. All that blood was spilt with one purpose: to safeguard mankind. Every human world, some of surpassing beauty and with cultures better than Olympia's, that said no to the Emperor's offer, was destroyed. Why? To protect the greater bulk of mankind. You are rich with folly to think this slight would go unanswered. This is rebellion, no less, and will be answered as such." "It is a negotiation," spluttered Didymus. "An arbitration called under the ancient tenets of Irene, and you threaten us with violence?" "You speak of peace," said Perturabo furiously. "You had peace, and you have turned your back on it. I judged you the moment I heard of your treachery, and I found you guilty." He took a step forwards, frightening the emissaries back. "There can be no negotiation with traitors." He laughed. A nervous note made it warble madly. The reasonable nature that had once ruled his heart watched in alarm as this pantomime unfolded, but it was powerless to stop the event's progression. Perturabo doubted he would have stopped it even if he could. For days he had debated what he should do, sliding inexorably towards the path of blood. Now his feet were set upon it, it was almost a relief to follow it to its natural conclusion. How ironic that despite being so shaped by his time on Olympia and voicing himself distantly from it, you can see and feel Perturabo's hurt, his anger. He feels betrayed, which in turn betrays his own feelings. That yes, despite being manipulated and used throughout his time here, and not feeling love until the coming of the Emperor, this was still the only home he'd ever known. The reasonable nature that he'd once ruled his heart watched in alarm. Perturabo's emotionally set himself on a course where there's no coming back from. And with that, he orders the fleet to level the city of Cardis and obliterates an entire city of people before demanding decimation from the entire world. They must kill 1 in 10 of their people, just as he had his legion. Of course, the nobles refuse, aghast at the mere proposition. None of them leave the meeting alive. And thus begins the slaughter of Olympia, saving his foster home of Lokos for last. But as the Iron Warriors sweep through the city, massacring the people, the cost of these actions begin to show amongst the Marines. Fortredon shattered the door with one blow from his armoured boot. Kelefon moved forwards briskly, his training kicking in, even though he fought defenceless townsfolk rather than deadly Xenos. At the threshold he raised his flamer, then lowered it and looked within. "Get on with it," said Zausk. Fortredon went to Kelefon's side to cover the modest room with his bolter. Possessions were scattered around the single room of the ground floor. It looked like breakfast preparations had begun when the attack started, and the inhabitants had fled. There, in 3 pieces, was a clay board. The flour to make the bread spilt over the floor. A doll lay face down on the rush matting. For all the vaunted promises of the Imperium, the lives of these people had not improved much. Seeing nothing inside, Fortredon asked, "Why do you hesitate, brother?" "I grew up in a place like this," said Kelefon quietly. The pilot light of Kelefon's flamer hissed. A savage twist snuffed it out, and he lowered his weapon's barrel to the floor. "I will not do it," he said. "What?" said Zausk, his voice grating and powerful through his Vox grill. "This is not right," said Kelefon. "These people are not our enemies." "Get on with it," said Zausk grimly. "Our orders are to kill everyone. No survivors. An example is to be made." "I will not," said Kelefon. "We have made enough of an example. This has to stop. Now." "Get a move on, brother," ordered Zausk. "No," repeated Kelefon. Slowly, so that none could mistake his actions as impulsive, he cast his weapon aside. The squad hesitated. Brother looked to brother. "He is right. This is wrong," said Barden. "You think so?" said Zancator. He was tense, spoiling for a fight. He put down his bolter and drew his knife, his murderous instincts coming to the fore at last. Zancator did not like easy deaths. "What are you doing?" said Zausk. Something like panic was in his voice. "I agree with Kelefon," said Dentrafor. He went to stand with his brother. "Do you think for a moment that the Primarch, having ordered the destruction of his own city, will thank you?" "You doom us all," said Zausk. "This never was his home," said Kelefon. "We all pretended it was, even though he said again and again that it was not. But it was my home. The Legion has changed. This is not the way we are. Where is our mercy? Look to Fortredon. Do we want him to grow into his iron, thinking that this is what we are? Callous monsters? From honour cometh iron." Kelefon held up his hand and swept it around him. Screaming citizens came up to the entry of the street, saw the Iron Warriors, and fled. "Where is the honour in this?" "The Primarch has ordered it, so let it be done," said Zausk. "His word is our command. Obey or die." In this one act, Perturabo broke what remained true of his legion, and gave into the flaws and doubts that had allowed to fester inside. And whilst his legion warred with itself and slaughtered his people, Perturabo confronted the tyrant of Lokos, his foster sister of old, a now aged and elderly woman on the last vestiges of life. Yet while her body was weak, her mind was as strong as ever, and she would not cower before the returned Primarch. Caliphone threw up her hand and looked away. What happened to the man I knew who wished for no more war? The boy who drew such wonderful things? Nobody wanted them, Perturabo said. The Emperor uses me for the most thankless tasks. My men are thrown against the worst of horrors, given the most grueling roles. We are divided, our talents ignored, our might reduced to splitting rock. My father ignores me. My men go unsung. Our triumphs are unremembered. My brothers mock me as my men bleed. Nobody cares. Is that so? She said. Let me present a different hypothesis to you, brother. Use that fine mind of yours to judge its worth. Here is my version of the story. The Emperor of all mankind came here and found a son whom he valued. He saw an indomitable will with unshakable determination. He recognized that you would not give up, that you would rise to best any difficulty, that the tedious to you is as necessary a challenge to overcome as the glorious. Your father set you difficult tasks, not because he saw no value in you, but the exact opposite. He can trust no one else to get them done. That is not true, said Perturabo, though the acid of uncertainty began to eat at him. He underestimates me. They all do. Man, what a passage that is. Remember the words of the Emperor? Your road will be hard, but few are worthy of it. I have many tasks for you, the indefatigable, the indomitable, the unrelenting. You shall be my Lord of Iron. Is Perturabo remembering those words as the uncertainty eats at him? Seeing those qualities in you, your father set you difficult tasks, not because he saw no value in you, but the exact opposite. He can trust no one else to get them done. The campaign against the Hrud wasn't because the Emperor didn't value Perturabo. It was because he trusted him to be able to get it done. His Lord of Iron. With his anger reaching boiling point, Perturabo chokes the life from his one-time sister, before turning away disgusted with himself. And as the city of Lokos crumbles, so too does Perturabo. Something broke in Perturabo then. A neglected but essential component of himself gave way. Not in his body, whose workings he understood well enough, but in that numinous part of his being some might call a soul. He experienced it as a physical sensation, as surely as if a tendon had broken in his leg. No physical collapse came from it, but a rush of emotion instead. There was pain there, and bewilderment, but there was something else that he had never felt before. Or perhaps he had, but had bottled it up so well that he no longer recognized the feeling. It took a moment for him to find the word. Perturabo was ashamed. Blood. There was the smell of so much blood. I have become Kurz, he said hoarsely. His excuse was insanity. What is mine? My temper? He sagged against the window, his weight so great the blocks shifted under his grasp, and the glass he had not yet broken cracked. He thought of what his brothers would think. He saw Caliphone was right, that he had stood aside and expected to be fettered, becoming angry when he had not been, falsely interpreting his brother's lack of praise for hatred of him. He had viciously set himself to proving himself worthy of their opprobrium. How he had succeeded. The Emperor will never forgive us this, he whispered to himself. The Emperor will never forgive us. The Emperor cannot forgive us. Ever. He repeated this over and over again. Perturabo had found a new unbreakable litany. Oh man, what a passage. I have to tell you guys, you need to read Hammer of Olympia. You will never look at Perturabo and the Iron Warriors the same way again. So poignant. It's heart-wrenching, hearing his thoughts there. The revelation that his brothers never hated him, that it was his own actions that led to his poor relationships. And the realization the Emperor valued him, trying to convince himself that his father can't possibly forgive him. Man, regardless of any faults you think the Horus Heresy series might have, there's no denying the tragedy of the traitor Primarchs. So many of them have these moments that just grab you right in the feels. And then to see them and their legions head down the path to ruin, manipulated by the dark gods in the future to come. Man, just so good. I will never look at Perturabo in the same way after reading this novel. It really helps with his character so much. Absolutely fantastic writing by Guy Haley. This is definitely up the top with the very best of the Primarch novels. If you're going to get any of the series, you can't go far wrong with this one. But as always guys, what did you think of it? Perturabo becoming haunted by his decisions, realising that his own actions have led him to this point, and that line from Caliphone, that he got these roles because the Emperor trusted him and him alone to get the job done, and him having to convince himself that the Emperor can't forgive him because he knows he was wrong. Man, so good. As always guys, drop your thoughts in the comments below. I love to read them. A huge thank you to all my subscribers. Your support really means a lot to me, it truly does. And if you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off and I'll see you all again real soon.